Happy Friday! Welcome to the 3 Things I Learned in SaaS, Sports, Tech, and Lab Events, Special Edition, Back to School. How to be the #1 SDR. I have a friend who's breaking into sales at the age of 40. They have no experience, and they're very excited about the SDR job they just got. So they came to me and asked me, as somebody who's been an SDR, who's been the #1 SDR at multiple places, and who's worked with SDRs over the past 20 plus years, some tips to be successful. Now, there are a lot of tips that we will share and have shared in the 3 things about a sales career, work-life balance, the things that are important over the long haul, whether you should take a sales job in the first place and what we've learned along the way. But the truth is, when you are the #1 SDR, you have a lot more opportunity faster. That doesn't mean you're going to be successful, but it does mean you have a faster opportunity to move up the ranks. I noticed that myself when I was the #1 SDR. So, given my experiences, here are 10 simple, now not to be mistaken with easy, 10 simple but very hard tips to help you become the #1 SDR. Number 1, lights. It means you turn them on when you get there and you turn them off when you leave. Now, work-life balance is incredibly important, and we'll talk in the future about when I pushed that limit way too far, it almost broke me. But there are times in your career when there are 5 alarm fires, and the work-life balance swings to one side a little bit. When you start as an SDR, that's one of those times. There's a lot of things we're going to cover in the 10 things. I know a lot of people are going to get upset when I say to be lights, but I will tell you, if you want to be the #1 SDR, you need to be lights. That's number 1. Number 2, nail the first impression. It's not fair. Being an SDR is not fair. Fair is what you pay to ride the bus. We talked about that a year and a half ago. There's nepotism, there's favoritism, there's all those things. In the end, the company's trying to make money. If you show up and you know the product better than the other SDRs, if you've done your homework and you've gone on the social channels of all of the different people that you're working with, all the different managers, and you understand who they are, what they do, and you understand the business, your odds of being on the right side of the ledger and getting the good leads are going to go up significantly. I've seen multiple times in my career where somebody who was the best salesperson did not win. And they didn't win because of favoritism. And we can complain about it all we want. That's just the way it works at SDR. So, if you're there first and you leave last and you nail the first impression, we've got a good start. On to number 3, which also talks about the start. 3, win the swim off. Again, we all want to work for a Valhalla-like SDR factory where everything is fair. Those don't exist. It's incredibly important that you win the swim off. Now, we used to talk about this when I played volleyball at a high level. It's important to win the first couple of points because what that does is it kind of sets the mood for everybody around there is how well you're going to perform. When you get there, you want to sell first and you want to get off to an early lead. We'll explain a little more in a while how that impacts the rest of the class, but you have no idea what's happening up above you and when people are going to get promoted. Sometimes it happens fast, sometimes it takes a while, but you're going to be in a lot better position if you win the swim off. So do whatever it takes to do that. That's number 3. 4, mirror the #1 rep. The playbook is right in front of you. Find out who they're calling, how they're calling them. Find out how they structure their day, what they're doing. Assuming that they're not #1 because of nepotism or favoritism, and a lot of times they're not. Go and figure out what's making them successful. I used to have a teammate at USC, had the best grades on the team, the only one above me my freshman year. And he would go to the library and find other accounting students that he knew were really good students. And he would sit at the table next to them, and he wouldn't leave until they did, even if it was 5 in the morning. So he would show up at practice pretty tired sometimes. But that was mirroring. Do this for the first 6 months if you want to be the #1 SDR. That's number 4. Number 5, respond immediately and at all times. Again, these things sound simple, but they're not. This is a 5-alarm fire, especially in the first year. If you have a contact or you have a prospect who is a captive audience, regardless of where you are and what you're doing, whether you're on a hot date, whether you're relaxing at home off hours, whether it's Saturday morning, respond immediately. Good leads are hard to find. You're trying to be the #1 rep. You'll have time to take your foot off the gas pedal a little bit after the first year, but for now, respond immediately. That's number 5. Number 6, practice makes perfect. This is an important one with some subtlety to it. Make sure that you are the #1 rep when it comes to activities. This one gets messed up a lot, and here's how it gets messed up. Activities are not meaningful unless they're meaningfully done. Often, people think that the measure becomes the target, and so they think, well, if I'm making the most calls, then I'm going to be the #1 rep. It's a #1 mistake made by SDRs. Make the most calls, but make sure that they're deliberate calls. Make sure that you're learning from them. Make sure that you're focused. Make sure that you're in the right place. I played golf last week with one of my friends who is now a senior vice president at a major events company, and he laughed. I forgot I told him this 20 years ago. He doesn't make cold calls while sitting down anymore. It's something I told him 20 years ago because I had learned it from somebody who taught me. Put yourself in a situation where your calls are deliberate and they're meaningful. And like anything else in life, the more you do it, the better you'll get at it, even if you're not very good at it. So be deliberate and be number one in activities. Number 7. And this talks to 3 things we did last summer. Your selling hours are gold. Treat them as the most important currency you have. Every minute during your core selling hours is worth 2 minutes and off hours. For us, in enterprise sales, that's between 7 a.m. and 3 p.m. Pacific time. So for me, everything I was doing between 7 and 3 was focused on selling. All the follow-up work, the administration, all the things that didn't lead to selling, I did in after hours. All the personal errands, all the long lunches, I didn't do those things unless they were in hours that weren't core selling hours. Remember, first year, 5-alarm fire, we're trying to be number 1. We're trying to set ourselves up for exponential gains in the future. Make sure that your selling hours are protected above all. That's number 7. Number 8, an important one that's come up recently. Ignore SDR social media. There are so many gimmicks out there and so many people trying to game the system with silly gimmicks like breakup emails, ambiguous voicemails, give me 27 seconds of your time, all these things that are done by people who've been through maybe 1, maybe 2 cycles in the economy. Ignore them all. They're great, they're fun, you should have fun following those things. You can treat them almost like a support group where you can vent to one another about being a new salesperson. But in the end, find people who've done this before. Find people who have moved up beyond the SDR path, who hire the people who hire the people who hire the SDRs. Sit down and learn from them and ignore the gimmicks. The gimmicks don't work, they don't sell anything. Yes, sometimes they gamify the system and you get more responses and more activities, but it's not how you're going to be the number 1 SDR. Number 9, something else we've covered in the 3 things. Keep showing up. This is the most important one. In January, everybody goes to the gym. In February, it starts to thin out, and in April, nobody does. SDR programs, especially the good ones that you find, are very selective. You will get people who are hardworking, and they will look very hardworking for the first month, second month, and third month. It'll be hard to win the swim off. It'll be hard to be number 1 in activities. It'll be hard to be lights. It'll be hard to win the first impression because everybody else will be pushing too. But I promise you, and this is 20 years of experience, that they all fall off. They don't take care of things beyond the first 1, 2, or 3 months. If you stick with this, if you follow these 10 things and you do them for an entire year, the odds of you being the number 1 SDR are going to be exponentially higher. Just stick with it. That's number 9. Finally, number 10. Read, 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 read. When somebody sits down to put together a book and they're an expert at something, they're taking all of their life experience and they're putting it down in a couple hundred pages for you, or in a short video. This is years worth of experience that can help you get where you need to go. I would suggest personally reading a lot of psychology books. Forget the sales books. A lot of gimmicks, not really an understanding of how you can be an effective salesperson, how you can be an effective SDR. There's a list of books that are down in the comments. I highly recommend all of those. If you want to talk another time about all the books I read along the way, there's a lot of them I don't appreciate too, which a lot of people think are great sales books, and I just think they're garbage. So those are the 10 very simple yet very hard ways that you can exponentially increase your ability and opportunities to be the number 1 SDR. I'm always happy to talk to people who are going into sales. It is a very tough but very terrific career path, and I could talk all day about it. That's it for this week's 3 things. We hope you learned something. We'll see everybody next week on the 3 things.